Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. I'm going to show you how to use Barbara Rogoff's planes of analysis to analyze your observations. So with previous videos, you're probably already familiar with some types of observations such as jottings. I'm going to cover also anecdotal records, learning stories, checklists, and many other types of observations. But before we continue, I wanted to share with you this wonderful instrument to analyze observations using so-called social cultural approach. So we all are familiar with developmental theory and developmental approach, which looks at the child as through the milestones, through achievements of certain stages of development. So certain ages they go through, and obviously maturation growth is measured. So it's a measured type of approach. It looks at what is developing, what is not developing yet, where we need support. But social cultural approach is slightly different, and Barbara Rogoff along with Vygotsky is a perfect example of social cultural theory. So let's have a look and learn how to use it, and I will also explain what are these three planes or lenses that we learned at university many years ago, and I wanted to share this knowledge with you. But for starters, let's talk about who is Barbara Rogoff. Barbara Rogoff is a theorist, is a researcher. She's from America and she's from Santa Cruz. She's a developmental psychologist who is known for her book, Cultural Development, Human Development. A really great book to read, easy to read, a lot of interesting insights. I highly recommend you to. It was our textbook at university. But also she is a prominent researcher because she was born a long time ago in 1940, in November, like me, and she made a lot of significant contributions, as opposed to me, to understanding how culture and context shape cognitive and social development in children. So what I really like about Barbara Rogoff's work is that it's built on her own research, but also incorporates all the knowledge about social cultural historical theory by Lev Vygotsky that we all know. So her work put emphasis on cultural factors, and EYLF, as you know, early years learning framework, also talks a lot about culture, especially this recent version, EYLF 2.0. So culture is impacting child development in many ways, so basically in all the ways, right? So if you think about Uri Bronfenbrenner theory that I also covered in my channel, culture appears through all the layers of child development. And I will give you an example based on Barbara Rogoff, my favorite picture. I want to share it with you and you will understand what I mean. So here is a famous picture that I always show to my students. It is from this Barbara Rogoff book that I was talking about, The Cultural Nature of Human Development. As you can see here, there are differences and similarities among cultural communities, such as how children participate in household duties, for example, chores. Also, the acceptance of risk. And this is the picture that I always show to my students, and it is quite shocking. So it is a picture of a child, as you can see, who is relatively young. I would say a baby slash toddler, and he is holding machete, a very sharp knife. So you might consider it dangerous, but in the book you will find that this is just culturally appropriate. So this is the tool of culture that is introduced under the guidance of the I would say more knowledgeable others, their child's father or child's grandfather, or people, other members of his group. So, and cultural community is the community that is raising the child. So there are different expectations in terms of how we raise our children and what is human development. So I highly recommend you to delve deeper into Barbara Rogoff research and learn more about her. But if you just want to understand how to use her theory and apply it to your practice, you need to know about few things. Number one is that Barbara Rogoff researched American mothers and American early childhood centers and raising children attitudes. And also she studied Guatemalan children and Mayan children. So these studies compared the ways people interact with children, how they teach them, how they view learning, and what are the strategies of learning they're using, which I find very, very interesting. So, for example, during our university studies, we discovered that American mothers talk more when they are with children, even if they are babies who are nonverbal, while Mayan mothers, they tend to demonstrate, to sit and explore something, which now, according to posthumanism, can be called entanglement or being in the space together. Yes, so like a mindfulness even. So it's quite an interesting difference that you can consider. But of course, it's important to think about how cultural factors impact on human development learning and whether learning is cultural in general. So the key concept of Barbara Rogoff is guided participation, which suggests that children learn from the participation in culturally significant activities, such as rituals. So if you think about where I'm from here now, from Australia, there are communities of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people, and children used to participate in all the important traditions and all the important events. So modern society, for example, of westernized families, children participate in a lot of events such as birthdays, like Christmas parties, etc. But they also are a little bit separated from sometimes daily life, and they're not, let's say, experiencing what is considered to be an adult business. So these are really significant differences between how things are done. So children usually learn at school, and they are not learning through guided participation or through observation, as Barbara Rogoff states. Sometimes a baby who is watching, they are learning already. They are watching what's happening. They're learning about the roles. They're learning about cooking. They're learning about pretty much everything that this community does. And of course, they learn songs and stories, and that's what Storykate is all about as well. So her research explored topics like how children learn through observations while they just, let's say, babies and just sit. They also learn through participation in everyday activities. Barbara Rogoff also talked about the role of apprenticeship, which she considers one of the ways of learning. And apprenticeship and learning is definitely a topic that belongs to Barbara Rogoff. So if you learn more about her approach, you will find how to apply this to your pedagogy as well. She talked about cultural variations in child rearing practices. I already mentioned some examples, but in her book you will find more examples, and also there are at least 2 TED Talks that I recommend to listen to at the end of this article and this video. You will see the link in the description. So as a researcher, of course, Barbara Rogoff is available on so-called ResearchGate. So that's where I'm part of. So I'm just going to show you. So for example, you can type in Rogoff here. And here we go. It's not the one. So we need to type it Barbara Rogoff. And here we go. So we have Barbara Rogoff, and we have her article, so we can request full text and read it. You also can find articles in Google Scholar if you are interested in. So I'll show you Google Scholar. All university students use Google Scholar, but we also can use it as early childhood teachers, diploma qualified educators, and certificates for educators and students. So this way you can elevate your research. Rogoff Barbara. And here you go. We have a lot of wonderful articles here. So you can find the most recent ones. You can sort them by date. Yes. So and you can read the one that I was just talking about, apprenticeship in thinking. That's definitely an article that I would start with. Apprenticeship in thinking. Here, this is the article. Yeah, so you can add it to your list and read it. It's really, really great. All right, going back to application of this beautiful researcher work, yeah, in the field of developmental psychology and education, because you will find a lot of research by this author. I just want to now jump straight into 3 planes of development. So according to Barbara Rogoff, there are 3 planes of analysis, or you can call them lenses as well. So they help you to look at what you are observing, what you are recording while children play or learn. And these are the planes that I described here. Number 1 is individual personal lens or plane. This plane focuses on the individual cognitive or psychological processes. It involves examining how the individual thoughts, emotions, and cognitive abilities of the child contribute to their learning and development. So this is an internal perspective of the learner. Here you can also add child's voice, child's words, child reflections, depends on what information you get. The second lens or plane is interpersonal plane. So you see social cultural theory already evident here. This plane looks at social interactions and relationships that play a crucial role in personal development. So the emphasis here is on the interactions with family, with peers, between children and groups, yeah, between child and educator and other members of community. So, and this is how they learn according to Barbara Rogoff through guided participation. That's why pay attention to these interactions and the words that I use or the looks that are exchanged is very, very important way of learning. So, and how children shape their world and how the world shapes their understanding of the world as well, and learning of cultural practices. Lens number 3 is community or cultural plane, or contextual or institutional plane. So many words for the same plane. So this plane considers the broader cultural context in which individual is situated, in our case is a child. So it examines how cultural norms, values, practices, and traditions experience the way individuals learn and develop. So it acknowledges that culture plays a significant role in shaping cognitive and social development. I'll give you some examples based on children, and then I'll share my example of how I used Barbara Rogoff 3 planes of analysis to apply to real observations. Okay, so personal or individual plane. Example, in a preschool classroom, a child named Emma is working on Australian animal puzzle. Emma's cognitive abilities and problem-solving skills come into play as she tries to fit the puzzle pieces together. Her individual plane of analysis will involve thinking processes, so what you observe in terms of how do puzzles fit, maybe in naming animals, her ability to focus, concentrate, her emotional response to the task. Does she seem to enjoy it? Does she find it easy? Does she find it hard? What did she say? So you also can observe how she approaches the puzzle and tailor her guidance or response to support Emma's individual learning style, cognitive development. You may also recognize Emma's milestones and interests and make notes on that. Another plane, interpersonal. So in the same preschool, another child, Liam, is engaged in cooperative play activity with his peers. They are building a tower with blocks together. They call it zoo for animals. The interpersonal plane of analysis comes into play as Liam interacts with his peers or friends. He learns not only from the materials like blocks, but also from his interactions with others. He may negotiate, share, problem solve with his peers, which contributes to his social development and ability to work collaboratively. You can use this plane of analysis, especially if child is not very social or if they tend to overbear the interactions. Number 3, community or cultural or contextual plane or institutional plane. Here you consider what kind of opportunities are available for children in your preschool. Yes, so for example, in your room, you aim to create culturally inclusive environment. This cultural plane of analysis recognizes the cultural diversity of children and their families. For example, Manisha is from India and her family celebrates Diwali as a cultural celebration festival. So the curriculum will include stories, songs, activities that reflect various cultural backgrounds, including Manisha's family traditions and preferences. The teacher will mention this in the notes of analysis, and this approach will also support child's contextual knowledge and will consider inclusion and sensitivity. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction to cultural context, but in 3 planes of analysis. Now let's have a look at the observation that I made. It is an observation of a group of children who are playing outside, and they are doing like something like a treasure hunt. So their observation is titled Snakey Snake, and the daytime children's names are changed for the privacy reasons. Sarisha, Jessica, and Emily went outside together. They started running around in the preschool yard. They looked under the tables, benches, A-frames, trampoline, veggie benches. They were looking at the holes in the ground and in the puddle. They have been observing the yard for a few minutes. While running, they communicated with each other verbally and non-verbally. Emily shouted, "Snake, snake!" Sarisha and Jessica joined in. "Snake, snake!" Emily said, "Snakey, snake." I was curious and asked the girls what they were doing. "Looking for the snaky snake," replied Jessica. She took my hand and pulled me towards the bushes. "Let's go together. We must find the snaky snake," exclaimed Sarisha, her voice filled with excitement. Emily and Jessica eagerly agreed, and the trio entered the cubby house, peering into a saucepan in hopes of finding their mysterious snake. Disappointment struck when Emily cried out, "There is no snaky snake in here." Sarisha replied optimistically, "Not here, but we'll find it." Jessica chimed in, suggesting they check near the water puddle. The adventure continued as they made their way to the puddle, with Jessica changing snaky snake in anticipation of a thrilling chanting, not changing, sorry, chanting. That was chanting, my typo, anticipation of a thrilling encounter. Concerned about potential danger of a snake, you asked if it was hazardous. "No," replied Emily. "It's a funny snake. It's actually a lizard." They spotted Bailey and a group of boys approaching. Fearing that the boys might disrupt their quest, Jessica and Emily playfully yelled, "Shoo, shoo, shh," pretending to ward off any interference from the boys. The girls then giggled and ran away, determined to continue their search for fascinating snaky snake. So this is the observation, and this was Barbara Rogoff lens, 3 planes of analysis that I applied to it. For example, personal, snakes, lizards, hunt, treasure hunt. These topics seem to be of interest of this focus group of children. They initiated this play, and seem to enjoy running, chasing, exploring the space. Imaginative play also is evident. Children know about snakes' holes, some habitat knowledge. Children already played Easter eggs hunt this week earlier. They were able to transfer knowledge of the process of looking for hidden treasure to their snaky snake imaginative play. Interpersonal, so social interactions. Emily, Sarisha, and Jessica have been playing together most of the time. They interacted a lot and seem to enjoy their playful interactions. Jessica seems to lead the rest of the group. I would also add here that they interacted with me as a pre-service teacher, so that would be quite important. Institutional. Liberty Avenue Preschool has a large backyard, so children can run around and explore the space safely. The environment includes natural logs, trees, bushes, secluded spaces and places such as cubby house, holes, and a huge puddle. Water play is part of everyday curriculum. There is always water table outside with play provocations. Considered a part of curriculum, there is always water outside. I would also say that contextually, Australian children are aware of snakes, especially in spring. But this is happening during Easter, so they still are prominent. So they probably heard about snakes a lot during summer, European winter, and they have good understanding of this hazard or danger culturally. But it seems that they are not really scared, so they are looking for a lizard kind of snake. So which may bring us to what's next. So while looking at these planes of analysis, you can identify the points that you can extend on and points that are not really addressed or may need clarification. You can ask parents whether they talk with children about snakes and danger related to that and risks involved, and that looking for a snake may be not a good idea because we can disturb them. What we can look for safely, maybe offer alternative, and also maybe talk a little bit more about nature hunt. So how there are people who are hunting animals in a way with cameras that are not hurting them as well. And this could go anywhere, but as you can see, we also can focus on interpersonal lens and support children's project, because this is a focus group of children. They seem to play together nicely, so we can organize a project or inquiry just for them. So this is Barbara Rogoff and her 3 planes of analysis. If you want to learn more about Barbara Rogoff, I already showed you her articles and talked about her famous book. And you can watch TED Talk here if you click on this link. Let me know what you think about this theorist, and whether you learned anything and would you be able to apply it to your practice. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.